comes to home sales, no matter which side of the transaction you're on, it can be tricky to maneuver.
When a seller wants to sell their home to buy another property, the problem is they can sell their home, but they don't have a property to go to.
Where to go may come down to geography for some, which accounts for how pre-pandemic affordable real estate markets like Boise, Idaho, became red hot.
They're the #1 most overpriced city.
Ken H. Johnson is a professor at Florida Atlantic University's College of Business. He, along with other researchers, just released new findings on the nation's home prices. And changes are afoot.
We continue to have a housing shortage, and the population movement is what it is. But the rise in interest rates, I think we're starting to see this downturn that has been long anticipated.
And that downturn, Johnson says, is beginning in the western half of the country, where home prices have reached a so-called pricing crown.
In other words, we're peaking in terms of pricing, and the separation between where prices should be in a long-term trend and where they are coming back together. That's suggestive that we're starting to see some price downturns, and it appears to be beginning in the western half of the U.S.
Researchers found that leveling off of home prices includes places like Boise, Idaho, and San Diego, California. By contrast, home prices in the eastern half of the U.S. are still rising, in cities like Atlanta and Charlotte, but also places like Nashville, Columbus, Ohio, and Tampa and Fort Myers, Florida.
The western half of the U.S. has been more overpriced, relatively speaking, than the eastern half. So it might make sense that you would see this beginning in the West.
How much of a home price downturn happens remains to be seen, but Johnson says it comes down to two main factors.
Cities that will thrive and do better with this will be those that are increasing in population and not separated so far from where their prices are versus where they actually should be.
And for those still in the hunt for a home,
a house is something more than a financial asset. So there's nothing wrong with being in a market that's a little hot. You just don't want it to be too overheated and buy near the peak.
A peak that will vary from coast to coast. I'm Maya Rodriguez.